You've probably heard about gum grafting if you have recession. That means if the gum line on one of your teeth is higher up and the root of your tooth is showing. But did you know that you can also get gum grafting when you have an implant placed, and it can really affect the success rate of an implant?
Yes. Welcome to the Smile Sisters podcast. I'm Dr. Arzu Nasiri.
I'm Dr. Azzi Nasiri.
Today we want to talk about gum grafting as it relates to the longevity and success of your dental implant. It is often ignored when placing dental implants, unfortunately, and especially if you're adding bone grafts at the same time as implants. A lot of times people do get bone grafts, but the gums are ignored.
And really, not a lot of general dentists even know about the different types of gums that need to be around implants.
Yes.
So let's talk about the different types of gums.
Yes.
So really inherently there's two types of gum tissue that we have surrounding the roots of our teeth, and it also applies to implants when implants are placed.
Yes, it applies to teeth as well. I mean, the same thing goes for natural teeth, but we have two types of gum tissue. One is like the gum that's on the roof of your mouth. It's attached gingiva, so it's hard, it's stuck onto your bone, it doesn't move.
It doesn't move.
It
so
doesn't
it's called
move.
attached gums or attached gingiva.
It's attached gingiva. The other kind is the kind that is like around the lips or tongue. It's still gums, but it's movable.
Right. It's not attached to your bone.
It's not attached to your bone. It can be moved, and that's to help you, move your mouth around and get flexibility as you're talking and chewing and stuff.
And we call that, surprise, unattached gum tissue.
Very creative terminology.
Yes, easy though.
So around the necks of each tooth and implants, we do need a good sized band of that attached gingiva.
Yes.
And that's very important for the longevity of both our teeth and implants in particular, because implants actually lack a lot of the natural kind of defenses that our teeth have, because our teeth have these little fibers that go from the gums and kind of connect to the roots of the tooth, and that prevents bacteria from getting in there.
Right.
Where implants don't have those little fibers. So they're much more vulnerable to bacterial invasion around the necks of the implant. So you really do want to have that band of attached gum to help it protect itself.
So let's talk about that. Why do implants fail generally?
So many reasons, right? Just like everything else. But having this attached gingiva has been shown to really extend the life of an implant.
Right, because if you don't have it, bacteria can get into the kind of pocket of gum tissue surrounding your implant.
Yes.
And then you lose the bone that surrounds the implant. Ultimately, an implant fails because you lose the bone that is encased in, right?
Yes. First of all, you want to make sure the implant is placed in bone. That's really one of the first things, is that sometimes the implant isn't fully encased in bone even when it's placed. So you're already kind of behind the eight ball a little bit.
Sure.
Because especially the top part of the implant, the part that's closest to sticking out of your mouth, that needs to have about 2 millimeters of bone around it while it's placed.
Now,
that's really important, especially on the facial side.
So when you go to get a quote for an implant, often dentists will quote you for that bone graft. Everyone's aware there needs to be height and thickness of bone for your implant, and your implant has to go within that sort of bony
encasement.
So we know about that, and you may have been quoted for a bone graft when you go to get an implant.
Yes.
But the gum tissue, and especially having attached gum tissue surrounding sort of the neck of the implant, is also important.
Yes. So let's talk about what happens when you get an implant and a bone graft. So the implant is placed, the bone graft is placed around the implant. Now your dentist has to take your gums and kind of stretch them over, because we want to always get what we call primary closure. That's really the gold standard. We want to get the gums to touch each other and close completely.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You have an implant placed, let's say they took a tooth out of your mouth, right? So now there's a big hole, right? And then they go and they stick an implant in there and they put some bone around it.
Right.
So really that gum tissue is not going to get primary closure without stretching it. So they release the gum tissue from sort of inside your gums.
The sides of your cheek, kind of inside sides of your cheek, and they stretch it over.
They stretch it over to tie it so that it can have primary closure.
So basically now you've taken that band of attached gum that used to be around the neck of the tooth, and you've brought it to the top part of the bone, kind of.
Right.
So now on the side of where your tooth would have been, you no longer have the attached gingiva.
Right.
Now you only have the loose gingiva there.
Sure.
So that's really key in the first initial surgery. Once that happens, now the second step normally is you go back in, you open the gum, and you place the crown on the implant.
Sure.
But most people now ignore that they've lost that band of attached gum that's on the side. That used to be there. That's
they've moved it.
They've moved it. They've moved it. And also over time, if you haven't had a tooth there for a long time, you can also lose it.
Sure. If you haven't had a tooth, you don't have your bone recedes, but that attached gum tissue sort of disappears a little bit as well.
So there's two reasons why you could lose that. One is if you had a tooth and the gum got stretched, and the other is if you've lost a tooth for a long time and you never had it to begin with when the implant was placed.
Right.
So now when we place the final crown around the implant, we don't have that nice gum anymore around that tooth. And especially in the lower arch, things are much more mobile. When we're talking and chewing, things move around a lot.
There's less of that attached gum tissue there to begin with, so it's easier to lose that band.
It is. And so it's really important to pay attention to this. And especially in front teeth, anterior teeth, if you've lost front teeth, that band of attached gum is really aesthetically important.
Yes.
That's why some people end up with these long crowns, or the implant looks like really long compared to the other teeth because there's just not enough gum. It's not about the bone anymore. Now we're talking just about the gum. So not only is it important for longevity, it's also very important aesthetically, especially in the front implants.
So then often a step that we do in between here, you've had the initial surgery for the implant, right?
Yes.
And then the next step is to do a gum graft.
Well, not necessarily. So sometimes in that second surgery, when we look at it, if we do have some attached on the top of the arch and also on the lingual of the arch, see, now we can reposition that gum.
Sure.
So your dentist needs to pay attention to all these little details. These are what makes an implant last versus one that fails. So they can actually make a cut and actually move that gum to the buccal side, back over to where it used to be. And now you might have enough, or you may not. They may still need to add, but now you can really prolong the life of the implant because you were careful and you didn't just haphazardly cut the gum off, but you were careful about how you made your incision, and you were able to move that gum over to the side to give more support to that implant.
Let's talk about that. The second stage surgery. So the first stage is that you put your implant into the hole and you maybe do some bone grafting and then you close the gums over.
Yes.
The second stage surgery is often called the uncovery surgery.
Yes.
Is where we make a little hole in the gums kind of right below or right above where the implant, kind of top of the implant is.
Yes.
And then we sort of take a mold and send it off to the lab to get your crown made for that. But that incision can be made just exactly above the implant. It can be made a little bit more towards your cheek side. It can be made more towards kind of the tongue side of your tooth. And so that's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. Right. If you are careful and you make the incision more towards the tongue side and you actually take that gingiva, that attached gums, and move it back to the side of the tooth, and we also sometimes add PRP to this to help that collagen regrowth. So we add PRP under the new gum and we move that gum over. See, all these extra steps will help you regain back that attached gingiva.
And PRP is when we take your blood, right?
Yes.
And then we spin that and we use that plasma-rich content of your blood and we pack it in there. How does that help?
Yes, so that actually helps by regrowing the collagen membrane. I mean, people use it to do facial aesthetics and for joint healing. It just helps your body regenerate its tissues faster. So we're using it now for the gum. We're using it for attached gingiva. So we're giving support to that gum, giving bulk to that gum, and helping it form nicely around the new implant crown that we're gonna have. Now let's talk about it in the front teeth, because this is a big problem in the front teeth. So if you lose the attached gingiva in the front teeth, sometimes you might need to actually take gum from another part of your mouth and add it. So usually we take it from the roof of the mouth.
Because we have tons of attached gum tissue.
Yeah,
there.
we have the whole roof of our mouth filled with attached gum. So we just
take a little slice.
Yeah, we
out
take
of there.
a little slice and we put it. And that is like really what's going to make an anterior implant look more natural, as if it's coming out of the gums naturally, nice aesthetics and nice flow, versus the ones that look bulky and look like they're sitting on top of the gums.
Sure, yeah, because if you look at anterior, means your front teeth.
Yes.
If you could look at your gum line here, it's kind of bulky over certain parts, over the roots of the teeth.
Yeah.
So we're creating that anatomy and that shape.
Yes.
By like not just bone, but by putting gum tissue. They're the correct type of gum tissue.
Yes, and also the bone and the gum are amazing. Like I'm just amazed by, like nature. So the bone is like the tent pole and the gum is like the tent. So, but they both have to be together. Like if the gum goes away, the bone goes away. If the bone goes away, the gum goes away. So you're trying to create this harmony of these two things to grow together and to help each other. And also the bone gets most of its blood flow from the gum. So if you have a nice band of attached gingiva on the bone, that's really going to keep your bone healthier and let your bone last longer, because that's where it gets its blood flow from. So all of these things have to work in harmony for an implant to last many years.
Sure. And that attached gum tissue is what stops bacteria from going up into sort of your gum line.
Yes.
And prevents failure, prevents like that swollen red gum tissue.
Yes.
That, we want to prevent
Bleeding
like gingivitis.
Yes.
Because you can get that in your natural teeth. When you go to the dentist and they poke around, the hygienist measures your gums, they're measuring like to see where that attached gum tissue is starting, because it's an indication of the health of your teeth, really.
And your gums, and your bone
gums,
levels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of steps can go into making sure. So now that we've moved the gum over and we've added the PRP, we've added an extra layer of kind of like, I don't know, just more support for that implant. And let's talk about the front teeth. For the front teeth, we actually take one more step normally, and we make a little temporary implant crown.
Yes.
And we actually put that there. Now we move the gums, we do our PRP, and we suture everything around this new temporary tooth. And the point of this is to help shape your gums to this nice scallop shape that is natural. So when we go and put the final porcelain crown on, the gums have already gotten the right shape.
Right. Yeah. Because our gum tissue sort of is kind of rounded around our teeth, right?
Yes.
And especially if you've had a tooth missing for a while, or your tooth was taken out and you had like a removable type of denture or flipper made for a while.
Yes.
If that flipper wasn't shaped to sort of the contour of the
But even the flippers that are, it doesn't work as well. Yeah. Sometimes if you take that extra step and you make that temporary, it's a huge difference.
Well, because your gums will flatten out. Your gums are scalloped to that shape to surround the roots of the teeth. So as you lose teeth, if you lose teeth, that gum tissue will flatten. And if you just place an implant in there without recontouring the gums or adding gum grafting, your crown of your implant is not going to look natural. You're going to have like food trap around the gum line, or it's going to look like it's sitting on top of your gums.
A lot of ledges, a lot of crowns with big ledges, where's food traps.
Yes.
So a lot of complications, and again, your implant won't last as long. So a lot has to go into the planning and the placement of an implant, but the gum tissue is often ignored, and it's really one of the keys of making the whole thing last
and look good for a long time and be healthy.
Yes. So I hope that was useful.
Yeah.
If you need more information, you can check us out at LA Dental Clinic. We do offer free virtual consultations.
Yeah, and we're located in Los Angeles, California.
See you next time.
Bye.